It's finally here, Absolute Superman #2, and I've read it and I loved it. I loved it a lot. In fact, Superman has crept up to my #2 spot of the 3 absolute stories. Superman's now #2 in my ranking because this story was so good. We got to see so much more. Stick with me. I'll tell you all the good and all the bad and all the cool new things that we've learned. Before we get started, do me a big favor. Do all the YouTube things. Like this, subscribe, hit that bell icon so you can see content like this whenever it's available. All right, Absolute Superman #2 expands on the Absolute Superman legend. And we get what I was hoping to get along the way. We get introduced to this crazy cape of his that's made of sunstone or the ashes of Krypton. And we get to see what's going on with these greaves that he has, these light up greaves that he has. They actually play a huge role in this particular story, and it's really good. We also get to see the character of Superman come out a little bit more. So the background of this is when we last left our hero, he was pinned down by Lois Lane, who was a soldier, and Lois Lane was saying, "Hey, stop where you are. You're under arrest for basically being dangerous." So they were going to arrest this guy for being a potential threat in the end. And he was like, "Yeah, no, I'm not going to sit on my knees here. I'm out of here." And you see this battle ensue throughout issue #2. Now, you've got all these peacemakers. So the peacemakers are the evil corporations enforcers. You've got all these peacemakers going after Superman, and he has been handcuffed to Lois Lane. She was like, "I gotcha. I've handcuffed you." And he's, "Okay, I'll just bring you with me." And that's what the whole story is. She goes on this wild ride while the peacemakers are trying to just blow this dude up. She's on this wild ride stuck to him for the entire issue. And it's a lot of fun. Now, along the way, we get introduced to the cape. Superman's being attacked. He's being attacked from all sides. He takes some hits, and out comes this cape behind him. And it's basically acting like a shield. And this cape, to me, this cape is like the Doctor Strange cape that has a mind of its own, does all sorts of weird stuff, and is there to ultimately protect Kal-El or protect Superman. So the mind of its own is this AI that he has on board in his suit, which is called Soul. And we learned something else cool about his suit is also a spaceship or something. That's a little less clear, but I think that his suit is the ship that he came in originally. It was the way that it sounded in the story and some of the flashbacks with Krypton. So that was also interesting to see. I'm not exactly sure what that's all about. Okay, so he's got the suit and the cape as he's flying, he's using this cape to block things that are attacking him from behind. At one point, he's flying in, he's being pursued by missiles. They blow up and you just see him carrying Lois Lane with this cape unfurled around him like it's blocking off the flames that are behind him. Now, I don't know if he needs all this extra protection because he's a weaker Superman, or he's just weakened because he was down in a cave the whole first issue and we're just continuing on like the minute after the first issue. So maybe he's in a weakened state because he's not as juiced up from solar power. We don't know about that yet. So that's what happens. Now, later on, he goes and saves some townspeople. In this cape, they said, "Oh, don't worry about the dust. The cape is made of this dust. Don't worry about the dust. It's here to help you." And it got healing properties. It's healing people's wounds somehow. It's what this cape is like the end all be all. It protects you. It helps stop all of your ailments. It is the ultimate sort of cape. And it's there. It has a mind of its own. It's flying around. At one point, he's having to fly really fast and he uses the cape to hold on to Lois. So the cape grips her so that he's not ripping her arm off with this handcuff. So it's a different thing. It's very different than I expected. I kind of dig it. Like there's so much you can do with this thing. And we've seen some super cool capes in other stories. We've seen Spawn has this badass cape that he's had forever. Doctor Strange has always had a cool cape going. So that's what we're getting right now. Now, I'm not sure if Jason Aaron was talking to Scott Snyder and Scott Snyder. So let's see who can make it the coolest cape. I'm going to give Batman a cape that's made of these nanofibers so he can walk on his hands like a bat and stick to ceilings and glide and do all sorts of stuff. And Jason Aaron, I'm gonna make one that's made of the dust of Krypton. And they did this thing. So that's what we end up with. We end up with this crazy dust of Krypton cape. The other thing that we see is these greaves that he wears that look like the glowing, like a solar look to them. And it turns out that those come out with malleable kind of light. It's a little like a near field Green Lantern. So they can use this to manipulate things, to pick things up. We see a picture of Superman's mom, Laura, at one point, and she is manipulating things with this in order to build the spaceship that he ultimately flies in. So she's using this to hold things up and to move and to manufacture a big heavy thing. And so perhaps these Greaves are going to keep doing that. The Soul, who's the onboard computer, he used that to manipulate and unlock the handcuff. But apparently the handcuff was super smart and it took him a while to unlock it. And that's why we ended up with Lois Lane traipsing around all over the place while Superman is under attack. So it's really cool. We got the Greaves, we've got the cape. We learned some things here. Now, Lois Lane, she's getting to see some things about Superman, and she is telling us about his character in the form of her report that she writes up for the Peacemakers. When she writes this up, she goes through the character. He goes from being super shy and quiet to commanding. And these sort of two sides that we have of Clark Kent and Kal-El that we see in the normal comics, we see this come out in this discussion as well. We see the Clark Kent and the Kal-El, the unassuming, quiet sort of character, and the in command, I'm in charge, I'm helping you to face this threat or to save people around you. And she said he switches between these things. He's goodness and he's kindness. And she says very positive things about this man that she was tethered to for an entire issue. So we get to unpack some things about his character. And we do that from exactly who you would expect to do that with. It's Lois Lane. Lois Lane is telling this story. It's super cool. I'm not going to read any of this stuff. I'm going to show you, I've been showing you some images here as we go, but I do think that we get to see a lot more of Superman. And I think the reason I didn't like the Superman that we got the last time is they didn't tell us much about Superman. This one tells us about Superman. And it starts to give us clues about these cool new pieces he has to his kit. Now, one thing we didn't get, which I'm not sure if I wanted or not, this was issue 2. And in Superman 2, we got Superman's Cellophane S, where he got to throw that thing out, catch the big dude with Zod. That was pretty cool. None of that here. We missed it. Maybe we'll get a Cellophane S later, and Superman will be like, ha, ha, Peacemaker, and throw it out there, and we'll get to see some Peacemakers wrapped up in S. I don't know. I don't want that. I thought that was cheesy in the first place. This is a great story. It is totally worth looking at. We have copies still at multiverse.shop. Would love for you to pick some up there. If you are not subscribed with your local comic shop, please think about subscribing with us. We would love to have you subscribe, and we'll reserve these. If you get 10 comics a month with us, we ship them out for free for you. Bags and boards for every comic. We would love to be your local comic shop online. If you don't have a local comic shop, support your local comic shop if you can. All right. Thank you all for watching. I want to hear what you thought about this right here in the comments, and I'll see you next time we have one of these things drop.